My name is Frank Beauvais. I'm a captain with the Nampa Fire Department. I've been with the city of Nampa for over 20 years. I'm coming up on 22 plus years here in October. Presently, I'm an engine captain on the east side of the city. Absolutely love my job. It's something that brings me joy every day that I go to work. I'm always excited to go to work. The men and women that I work with are top notch. Both in my department and in the Valley. And I've been able to experience departments all across the country in different training settings, both that I've taught and ones that I've taken. And I can't speak more highly of the professionals that I work with. And when I say professionals, I mean both volunteer and career. So I guess if we just set the stage with that I love my job. I love the people I work with. And I feel honored and blessed to serve the citizens of Nampa. It's one of my greatest joys to make sure I can do that for the city. I actually live in the city of Nampa, and I own a business here as well. I'm super involved with the city. My family goes to school here. I spend my money here, and I drive the streets here. This is my home, and this place has given me a ton. So I do love the city, and I'm planning on staying here for a really long time. I guess my story with PTSI is something that is my own. I can't speak to how other men and women, both in my line of work and in other professions, how it's impacted them or how they've dealt with it or what triggered them or any of those things. This is a pretty personal story, and I would assume that happens with most of them. So I can't tell you what or how much you need to see or how little you see, how it affects different people. I think it lands on people differently. So I guess that's kind of where I'm starting from with where I'm at right now. I started out downtown city of Nampa, not a big city. We're like 45, 50,000 people. We're now protecting probably over 100,000 in the area, and we're a fairly busy department. And in this, I guess the time frame that I've been there, you do see and go on things that are pretty funky, and it doesn't always make the news. I know that this is going out to a lot of people that aren't first responders, and so just because something doesn't hit the news doesn't mean something horrible didn't happen in your city. And so the loss of life and the value of life is an interesting concept, especially in our present times. A lot of people, something that's fallen on me as of late is a lot of people have a very cavalier attitude when it comes to their own health or other people's health, or even just the way that they face death or they think they'll face death. I've seen a lot of it here in the city, and people are at their most vulnerable at that point, and that can be pretty heavy for folks that go on it. My, I guess, trauma, and I apologize if I use the wrong words because I'm just a guy, just a dude, a fireman. I'm very good at breaking stuff and putting fires out and helping people, but I'm not a physician. I'm not a clinician, and again, this is just my story. So I guess I've seen a lot of things, and I thought I was good for a long time. I think one of the best metaphors I've heard is the cup metaphor, where we're all given an empty cup when it comes to life. And you don't have to be a first responder to have this cup, right? Or in the military or what have you. But as things happen to you and stuff that you don't deal with, that cup progressively fills up. And eventually stuff starts to spill over. And that's when we see our lives potentially go into disarray. So I had a great childhood, great parents, came in, big time military background with my family. I was ready to serve and do good things, got into the fire service, and started seeing stuff that wasn't awesome. As a young man, I didn't realize that was something that, especially in the early 2000s, I got on in 98, wasn't something that was talked about. It wasn't something that was known at my level. So guys have been experiencing things, guys and gals. I apologize if I just use the term guys. It's not correct. We have some awesome, awesome female firefighters. But yeah, you see things and you put it in a little box, you set it aside in your head, and you move on because you have another call to go to, and because at that time especially, that wasn't something that you addressed in the firehouse. I've got a few specific in my head. As a for instance, I remember we lost a little girl, and it was a very traumatic incident, and we worked her for quite a while, and went back to the station, and there was nothing said. So I just stayed downstairs and did pull-ups until I couldn't move my arms anymore, and that allowed me to kind of emotionally decompress from the call, essentially put it away, and try to move on. Turns out that was a kind of a caveman adaptation to something that should have probably landed me talking to a therapist or something. Just to put it where it's supposed to go. As I understand it, when you see things that aren't great, our body kind of takes a hit, and it kind of leaves a memory on you. And if you don't deal with it effectively, over time, that cup, it does fill up. And so progressively over the years, I progressed in rank. I was lucky enough to test well and do well and enjoy the confidence of the guys around me. So I progressed into a captain's position, and a little more responsibility, and continued to see a variety of calls throughout the city of Nampa that were pretty catastrophic and funky. And it's not just the fiery crashes or anything like that. It's seeing people that are having their worst day. It just kind of adds up. And yes, we did sign up to go and help people, but there's a lot of things that humans just shouldn't have to see. And if they do, they should be dealt with effectively at the time, so that they don't bear lasting funky stuff with it. I found probably 10 or 12 years into my career, I was having some issues sleeping, and I did see a therapist for a few sessions, and that kind of pushed things down or took a little bit out of that coffee cup for me, but I thought I was just fine. I found myself just getting busier and busier. The busier I got, the more productive I was, both personal life and in my business. But I wasn't addressing the underlying factor, which was that I was starting to not interact with people, wasn't able to connect with people very well. So outwardly, I'm despite my monotone voice right now, I'm actually a pretty energetic guy. I run a gym, and I interact with a lot of firemen, a lot of really good humans all the time, and I'm pretty lively, and I have a lot of fun. But I wasn't interacting on a level beyond that, and I started not being able to look at people in their eyes. So that was kind of like my physical manifestation of what was going on. I didn't really know what was going on, and I wasn't sleeping, and I was steadily just not enjoying life very much. So I was at a solid like 70%. And C's will to get you degrees, but 70% on life is not a cool way to live life. Probably 2 or 3 years, about 2 years ago. So with me, about 20 years on the job, things kind of came to a head. I found that I had completely disengaged emotionally with everyone in my life. I was still doing everything I was supposed to. My integrity was there. I wasn't doing anything odd or weird. I didn't have any addictions, nothing like that. But emotionally, I was empty. I stopped kind of feeling things. And I didn't know what was going on. I just thought that's just part of the job, and that's what we're supposed to do. And for a long time, I actually kind of probably took like a weird sense of pride in that, like, nope, these are hard things. I'm a hard guy. I'll just take care of business and do what I'm supposed to because that's what we're supposed to do. When I noticed that it was affecting, or when it came to my attention that it was affecting my family, because I was doing everything I was supposed to, nice house, all the bills are paid, just doing everything for my family. But when you're not being not emotionally available, you're actually not doing everything you're supposed to do. So I started avoiding crowds completely. It's not a good thing when you own a gym that has crowds in it, pre-COVID. And I started not wanting to be around anyone. That was a problem. And then I started, as I drive through the city, so it's really cool that I live in the city of Nampa, and I know business owners here, and I count so many of them as friends, and this place has given me so much. But as I drive to work, I can pick out just most every block where we've had a fatality or something has happened, and it's not terrible if you have dealt with it, but if you're driving to work and you see little images sometimes, and they come into your mind when you don't want them to, it kind of weighs on you. And I found myself my reactions or my emotions, the lack thereof, couldn't connect, but then I would get really upset in my car, and it's like the weirdest thing. If you can imagine driving and then suddenly being in tears and not knowing why, it's not super conducive to living a full, happy life. And so I found myself just being more and more alone, wanting to be alone and not interacting. So when that started affecting my family and my wife, I knew I had to do something. I'd taken care of the physical aspect of things. I was in good physical shape. I could do my job well. I was healthy. So I was doing that. But my emotional state was not good. So I started reaching out, looking for a counselor. I was able to find one through some department connections. Started going to her. That started helping. Reached out to some men in my life, mentors that I trusted, and leaned on them pretty heavily to try to figure out how to take the next step and what I should do. Because at that point I felt like my wife moving, like not being married to me, was a better idea because I was not emotionally available for her, and I felt like she deserved more. So I wasn't doing anything incorrect. Like I said, my integrity was there. I just felt like she deserved more, and I couldn't provide it. And I was afraid I could never feel again. So I poured everything I could into getting better. One thing that I do is I grind. I like to work. Figured if I just worked harder, really dove into counseling, and then just worked with my mentors and read as much as I could, and I was as open to the counseling as I could be. Hopefully I could salvage my marriage. I guess like the thing to take with that, if I could pass it on to other people, is that there is an end game, because at this time I am in a much better place. I'm still an active captain, so there's still a lot of calls that I go on that are not super awesome. But I work to deal with them effectively and kind of put them away where they're supposed to go by going to counseling, or by just being more open and talking about it with the men I work with and the women I work with. One of the terms that was brought up to me as I was getting ready to do this, which I have no script for, which is fairly evident in the way I'm talking right now, is the idea of resiliency. And the human body, whether it be physical or mental or emotional, is super resilient. No matter how you think we're here, whether it be God or whatever, or creation, or just biology, we have these really super adaptable bodies, minds, and spirits. And so even though I was pretty broken emotionally and spiritually, through a lot of work, a year and a half of hard work, of counseling, and really being open to to change and being vulnerable, you can kind of bring things back. That timeline, a year and a half, is an arbitrary one. For some folks, it would probably take a lot less, and for other folks, it may be a lifetime. I'll take a step back. I will continue to go to counseling, even though I feel good. I feel well. I think it's vitally important for my relationship and for me to be the fireman and the husband and the leader I should be in the department, to continue to pay attention to my mental health, because if I don't, I find myself where I was before. So there's a photo to my right here. This is a picture of me when I was going through some of my early counseling. I was trying to figure out ways to articulate or express what I was feeling, and I'm just a dude, and so my vocabulary and my emotional language wasn't what it should be or what it could be. For some of you, that might be readily apparent right now. For a lot of us guys, it's a tough place to go or to be. So I reached out to a friend of mine, and I thought maybe I could visually express kind of how I was feeling. And so I did a photo session with a dear friend of mine, and that's what that is there. That was kind of in the mix of me just starting the whole process. And with my gear on and kind of relating a couple of those stories, it kind of visually was expressed through that. So yeah, I don't know. I guess my hope for anyone listening to this, especially in this day and age, is to realize that the men and women, and I'm not speaking for anyone besides myself. I think just want to be very clear with that. The men and women that are out there, whether it be first responders, career, or volunteer, the military and the like. And again, I cannot speak to their experience whatsoever. Everyone has a different experience, and people have seen much more trauma than I've ever even thought of, and are just fine, actually, have dealt with it just great. But I had a little bump in the road. So I guess what I would say is that if you can get ahead of the game early, game is kind of a funky word to use, but if you can get ahead of, I guess if you can address things as they come to you, while it's small or while it's manageable, while it is not a problem. If you can get ahead of understanding how you should and shouldn't feel, or how to process things better, I think you can have a much more healthy career, and you can be better at your job in no matter what aspect it is. And I don't know the experiences of law enforcement or the military. I can only speak to my personal experience as a firefighter. But being able to maintain that empathy and compassion for the people you go on makes us not only a better human, but I think better at our job. And always putting stuff away and never addressing it took some of that from me. I do have what I think is the best job in the world. And there's a ton that I get from it, but it will definitely take from you, and it has taken from me. Going to counseling and being present and thoughtful and yeah, and just always working on being the man that I need to be for my family. I think it's made me a better fireman, and has made me a better human. And it took me a long time to get there. And most of it was ignorance, legitimately. I was never scared of going to counseling or anything like that. I didn't have any weird masculine weirdness that goes with that. I just didn't know, and I thought I was just fine. But once I got in there, I realized I had some stuff I had to work on. And I don't know. It'll be, take a step back. Everyone's experience in this will be their own. You're gonna have to find somebody, if you need it, that hopefully you connect with, and then you can work with them and try to find what you need to get you back to where you were, I guess. So my path through working through a lot of this stuff wasn't, I don't like, people don't exist in a vacuum. I'm just like, my experience wasn't just my own, it was also my family's. And I thought that I was holding it all together and that my family didn't realize that I was hurting. I'll start with my kids. I know that I never wanted my kids to see me hurting or in pain. I think as parents, we always try to make sure you keep that from your kids. And I think that's, I don't think that's wrong, but I think that recognizing your kids, being able to recognize your humanity is also not entirely, I think it's a bad thing either. I can't speak to their experience, but I can speak to what they said after I'd gone to counseling. And my son was, he was just happy that, just like, Dad, I'm just so glad that you're happy now. And I thought I had all that stuff pinned down, but he knew, and my daughter knew, that things weren't awesome. So even though you think you have all that stuff squared away, your kids are smart. All kids are smart. They know. And so even though I thought I was protecting them, I actually, they don't need details. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about knowing that, yeah, you are struggling a little bit. And I think it was really good for my son and daughter both to see that their parents aren't infallible and that their parents are human, and that I had some stuff I had to work on, and yeah, that you sometimes have to lean on other people to make things happen. And I think that's super important. I think it's valuable. I think that reaching out to the community, whether it be just people right around you or broadly, is a good thing. And that community is not Facebook. Nothing wrong with Facebook, except for that's not community. That's not a social network. That is an app. Community is the men and women that do show up and that do hold you accountable, and that love on you and tell you the stuff that you maybe don't want to hear but that you need to hear, and that are there when you need to chat with somebody, or when you just need to sit and not chat with somebody. Maybe it's a long bike ride or whatever. But we got a lot of those people, and they're really good men and women that helped me move through that. But with my family, they're of course they're the most important pin in this whole thing, and I wasn't doing what I should by them, just based upon not being emotionally available. And so I know taking care of getting my stuff squared away really assisted in my relationship with my kids. And my wife, that was a huge piece to it. We we did this journey together. As a fireman's wife, she has a kind of a unique experience in that sometimes I'm gone for 3 or 4 days if I'm working some extra shifts. Sometimes I come home and it's been, not only am I tired, but sometimes you've had a rough day. And before, I would never let her know what was going on. And now I don't tell her what I saw or what we did, but I will let her know that it was this is a rough day. So I might just need a little bit of extra time, or may not be able to talk as much as normal today. I just need to process some stuff. And she's been really good with that. When I was kind of in the depths of working through this, and I had articulated to her that I was not able to feel things anymore. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of married people listening to this. That's not like super conducive to a great relationship. And so she's a pretty amazing lady, and so she started down the path of counseling herself so she could figure out how to best talk to me and how to best work through this. She is in it for the long haul, thank goodness. And so she went head on into it. She went into counseling as well, just trying to figure out the best way to to be there for me and to be there for herself as well, to make sure she could be strong for my kids and all those good things, which was really awesome. She did amazing and really led the way, which most wives that are listening to this are like, of course she did, because ladies are super powerful and awesome, and they actually run the world. So yeah, so she went to a lot of counseling and tried to better understand kind of what I was or wasn't going through, and how to how to kind of navigate the waters that I was in. And we did that together, and it's kind of a testament to how strong of a woman she is, and how much she loves me. So it was awesome, and it was hard, and it took a lot of conversations that were super uncomfortable, and conversations that I probably didn't want to have, and ones I would never have had, until we realized that the only way to like knock this stuff out was to kind of hit it head on. And once we started doing that, we had some good language we could use, and we were able to start slowly backing things down to where now I can rock and roll on this, and be what I need to be at home and at work. So there's a lot of connotations, I guess, of weakness or of giving in or giving up by going to counseling, and it's kind of part of the reason why we're talking here. I couldn't be farther from the truth. Like, legitimately, I've done some really hard things. I've been in some pretty funky situations, and counseling was like the hardest thing I've probably done, because you have to be vulnerable and you have to go in and like, yeah, you're not in charge, and you have to address things inside that you put away on purpose. And so I don't know. I would just hope that people, whether they're, Yash, you can, hopefully this speaks to people that aren't just in emergency services or the military or what have you. Like, life can be funky and tough, and sometimes you do need to address stuff whether you're wearing a uniform or not. And so yeah, I would suggest do the hard thing, which is to go and talk to somebody and work on being the person that you can be, or the person that you should be for the people around you. Life is meant to be lived, and not just weathered. Like, there's a lot of joy to be had in our lives, and if we don't, if we're not present in the situation and we haven't put stuff where it's supposed to be, we miss out on some really amazing things and some really amazing people. And for me, that's probably like on this other side of this, is that I get to have a lot more peace and a lot more joy with the people in my life and the people that are around me. And I was missing out on that before, and I was just existing. That's probably the word I was looking for. Life is meant to be lived and enjoyed, not to just exist. And I was existing, and I didn't realize it for a long time until things started to unravel. And so once I was able to address that I did have an issue and something needed to be done, and then went after it, I was able to find joy again. And so for folks that are in the position that I was in, where you don't feel like there's joy and there's no hope, I would just ask that you just start with like the possibility that there is emotion and joy and hope and peace. And if you give yourself like that possibility, and that's like over here, on one side of things, and you're on the other side of things, the things that separate that two is work, right, and perseverance, and but you can get there. So if you're willing to put the time and effort in, like, you can find that joy in your life again. And the only way I found that was through other people and being vulnerable, and that was huge. So hopefully someone takes something from this, and you can you can do something with it. So, yeah, thank you for your time, and hopefully you get something from it.